And you are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 24th, 2024 meeting of the Annapolis Education Commission. We appreciate you joining us tonight. This is, we're going to do a roll call of our commissioners. But first, I'm going to remind you that it is the month of the military child, is April. And if we can keep in mind all of our families that move here from different school districts, and think about how we can make their transition smoother, more functional, everything we do to improve communication within the Annapolis cluster helps our families that transfer in and out to have the best schooling for their kids so that they can serve their own mission that they do for us. I'm going to start roll call of our commissioners with Ward 1. If you can just unmute and say your name and any affiliations of groups or why you're on the commission.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Carr from Ward 1. I teach at the Naval Academy.
And Rachel is our secretary for this commission year. Thank you for serving in that role. Ward 2.
Hi, I'm Jamie Weaver. I'm a former teacher with the Infants and Toddlers program, and I have children attending Germantown Elementary.
Great. Anyone moving up next year, Jamie?
Yeah, I have a fifth grader that'll be going to Bates next year.
Great.
So very exciting.
All right. Well, Laura has prepped the way to make Bates as wonderful as possible.
They do it all by themselves. It's a great school. In the Apex program or just general?
He got waitlisted for the visual arts program, so
Okay.
he's just going to be going into
There's
the regular.
a lot of movement. My daughter was like 9th on the list and ended up getting a seat. So just hang.
Okay.
Actually, no, she was further down than that. How far? She was further down than that. But ended up eventually moving up. So keep your fingers
Okay, well,
crossed.
we'll see.
And
Yeah.
don't give up hope.
All right, Ward 3.
Hi, I'm Enid Collison Lee. Probably is Pam here? Pam and I are probably the longest standing members. Oh, there she is. On the commission when it was just a committee. So I'm glad to see we have a lot of involvement from other, like the city and the Board of Education. So that's just great.
Ward 4, Ms. Finlayson.
Good evening, Sheila Finlayson, Alderwoman, representing Ward 4 and the City Council liaison to this committee.
Thank you. Our Ward 4 community member is still in a position. If anyone is interested, please contact me and Hillary Raftovich for the process to get nominated for that. Ward 5.
Hi, everyone. India Oaks, Ward 5, parent of a 8th grader at Bates.
And India, is he moving on to Annapolis High School or has he chosen a different program?
Annapolis.
Great. Great to hear. Okay, Ward 6. It doesn't look like Corey McKell is with us tonight. Ward 7. Laura, that's you, Ward 7.
Sorry, I'm directing traffic in the kitchen. Sorry, my oven door is loud. Yes, Ward 7. I'm the parent of a 21 graduate and an 8th grader who is learning how to use oven mitts in the oven apparently for the first time. And she's in the Apex program now and was accepted into the Visual Arts Apex program at Annapolis High, and we'll start there in the fall.
Great. And Laura's currently the PTA president at Bates.
Yes, and if anybody who's coming into Bates is interested in joining our PTA, we are currently soliciting for members, for board members for next year. So if anybody is coming into Bates and wants to take a leadership role in the PTA, let me know.
It's very rewarding, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's not nearly as time consuming as elementary school PTA for anybody who might be alarmed about that. It's a lot easier at the middle school level.
Great, thank you. Ward 8 is our Commissioner Jess Packler, and she has a work commitment that's preventing her from joining. She might slip on later if she's able. Okay, then we move to our at-large commissioners. Pam, we'll start off.
Pam Bukowski. My 6 children all attended schools in the Annapolis cluster. My youngest graduated in 2010.
Great, thank you. And Pam is a Hillsmere Elementary grandparent. Continuing on with the educational system. Odessa, if you could introduce yourself.
Gonzalez, 3 friends from a high school, and that's all I have to say.
Odessa, we're having difficulty hearing you again this meeting.
Did you hear me?
Not quite. You might need to turn your video off
Okay, let me go to the,
just so we could hear the audio. That might that's worked before.
oh, okay.
Yeah, there we go. Can you try that again for our visitors?
And then I have to go out in the middle. Okay, can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay. Odessa Ellis, mother of 3 graduates. A mother of 3 graduates from Annapolis High School and a long-term substitute teacher
At Annapolis High School.
at Annapolis.
Yes.
So do I need to move and go out to the living room, or did you hear me?
We could hear you great there. Sorry, we can't see you, but just with
Okay.
audio, that works really well. Thank you.
Okay.
Our other, we have Grace Matthews is our other at-large member. She's not with us tonight. And I am the 4th at-large member of the commission. I'm Janet Norman, and I have a 2021 and a 2018 graduates of Annapolis High, former Hillsmere Science PTA chair, and Annapolis High PTA president. So we're going to move on to revision or approval of the agenda. Laura, could you bring the agenda up, please? If anyone had any changes to the agenda before we accept the agenda. We do have our generic categories of new business, unfinished business, sponsored events that a lot of things can fall into. Do I hear any need for revision or amendment of the agenda? Okay. Hearing no revision, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll move, Laura.
Laura moves. So is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor of accepting the agenda?
Aye.
I see hands. Agenda is approved. Let's power through there. Do we have any, now we're going to the minutes from the March 19th meeting. Dr. Carr took excellent minutes, and again, it gives me my marching orders of what actions I was supposed to have accomplished before this meeting. Laura, are you able to pull up the minutes at all? Thank you. Awesome. Does anyone have any revisions or comments on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented and distributed to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I see Jamie. Do you have a hand up as a second?
Second.
Yes.
Jamie has seconded. Okay, minutes are approved as and adopted. Thank you. Public testimony. I did not hear that the city had received any public testimony through their website. But Madeline, if anyone comes on and requests to be a participant, if you could let me know that, please.
I do have one person in the attendee list, but I'm pretty sure I recognize the name.
Yes.
Regina Brown.
Yes.
I did just give her permission to talk in case she wants to say something, but usually I believe she is happy to watch.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Brown, if you wish to speak, just put up a hand. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so wonderfully, we can move right along to the meat of tonight's presentation. We are very eager and appreciative to have Ms. Erin Lee and Ms. Aisha Young from the City of Annapolis staff in the Community Services branch. And we're going to have a presentation from them and then a question and answer period where we can talk about all the great things that they're doing all over town and ask any questions. So Erin, if you want to put your camera on, thank you.
I wanted to say hi while they're setting up. This is Will.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Will. We also have Will Rowell, Senior Advisor, Community Relations from the City of Annapolis. And Will is on our agenda after Ms. Lee and Ms. Young.
All right.
Erin, do you need any sharing of screen, or do you need Laura to pull up the presentation?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I was just about to ask if Laura doesn't mind just pulling up the presentation. That'd be great. Or we could just pull it up on our end. Either one works. I know right now Aisha is having some issues with her camera, so she will be joining us as soon as she can.
Sure. And if it's audio only, we understand those challenges.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want me to bring up is that in the folder?
Yeah, it's in the folder. I think it's called OCS.
I can also share it. I already have it up, and
okay.
it should be everyone already on, so I don't need to keep an eye on the attendee list.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madeline.
I just have to. So, if you get both.
Okay, so right now actually I'll just have excuse me. I'll say we'll just have our OCS manager, Aisha Young, jump in as soon as she's able to get her camera together or her voice ready. But I know we do have limited time, so I'll just go ahead and jump in. But I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, so much for inviting us here to speak today, to talk a little bit about our office, and also just to share some information about ourselves, what we've been doing in the community so far, and maybe how we can help support. Oh, yes, Will?
Whoops. Enid, I think your microphone is on. If you want to mute that so we can just hear Erin a little bit better. Great.
Yeah, that's
okay. Thank you. Yes, and just share a little, hopefully some opportunities to help out our families and our students here in the city of Annapolis as well. You know, first off, I'm a proud product of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, went to Harmon, MacArthur, and then finally Old Mill before going to Morgan State University. So yes, I'm definitely, education has just been a huge passion in my life, throughout my social work career as well. And I definitely want to continue it here in my work with Annapolis as well. Awesome. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So here is just a quick breakdown of our organization. We have the Office of Community Services, which is under the Office of the City Manager here in the city of Annapolis. And we do all report to the Assistant City Manager, Aisha Young. She is our new OCS manager. We're so happy to have her. She's been with us for about, I would say, 2.5, 3 months, but she's definitely gelled into the role as with everyone else here very well. We're currently working on some of our grants right now. That's been a very busy time for us, but we're so happy to have her. Under Aisha, we have the social work coordinator, which is myself. We have our community services coordinator, as well as our Hispanic manager, case navigator. So just a quick brief talking about some of the other roles. The community services coordinator is right now, that position is currently open. So we hope to have a job advertisement probably before the middle of May. We'd like to have that out. So if anyone who is interested in some of the roles of the job will be promoting the office, being integrated within the communities to see about their needs, to help with referrals for services, to also help plan outreach events, resource fairs, as well as partner and help educate and systems build with our local nonprofits. Those are just some of the many roles we have our community services coordinator does. We also have our Hispanic case manager, that's Ismenia, and she works very closely with our Hispanic community, with our Spanish-speaking community, whether it be with connecting with resources. I work with her as well, because unfortunately I don't speak Spanish, but luckily she comes in there and helps with that connection with the community, with translation. And they also happen to do meetings with the various consulates, such as the one from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, to help the immigrant population here in Annapolis, whether it be like with legal issues, immigration issues. They do so much to help out with that part of the community. We also have our rental assistance associate. Her name is Jada. She happens to be one of the heads of one of our more popular programs is the rental assistance program here with the city, and she helps to keep that organized. We also have an enrollment associate. Her name is Evis, and Evis also assists with Ismenia because she is bilingual, but she also helps with whether it be social services enrollment, Social Security, and she and I work together as far as that goes as well. So next slide, please.
Great.
So in the case management role that I have, I just wanted to talk very briefly about that. So typically when we do receive referrals, they would come from either the mayor's office, our local social service organizations, local schools, or it could even be the resident contacting myself or our office directly. And in that role, I normally do provide short-term case management, which would be about 3 months. And if the case management happens to need a little bit more intense work or needs more time to work on with the particular client, we would definitely look towards referral to county social work or social services offices, maybe more, say, mental health services, anything that would require, I would say, a more hand-over-hand approach. We also do referrals to those agencies as well. We also do a big part of what we do is service coordination. And so say we get a resident calling, needing, for example, furniture. There may have been a bed bug problem. There may have been a fire, which has also happened, where they unfortunately are not able to afford furniture, but they are in need of it. One of the referrals that one of our partners that we work with is Hope for All, which is located over in Glen Burnie and provides furniture for residents who may not be able to afford it, may have lost their furniture suddenly, or even folks who are moving into a new home or a new residence and are not able to bring their old furniture with them. And so they've just been a great partner with us as well. So that's just a small example, but other examples would be referrals to Arundel House for mental health assistance. Also to working with the social workers at the Office of Social Services, which is on 80 West Street. That would be with some of our church partners as well when it comes to financial assistance. So yeah, those are just some of the referrals that we do. Next slide, please. And just a brief bit about our Hispanic engagement with our office. Ismenia and Evis were very nice to get us some quick stats here. As far as like currently a quarter of our Annapolis community identifies as Hispanic. And back in 2021, there was a survey that was done that showed that 82% of our Hispanic Annapolitans were monolingual Spanish speakers. And so this definitely hinted at an urgency for language access plans, translation funds, and for more case management resources for our low-income Hispanic families or our monolingual population as well. So that's one of our goals that we've been working on in our agency. Some of our advocacy events, involve the Taco Fest, Day of the Dead, our Latino Social Justice Forum. I mentioned meeting with the consulates. That's a huge event and that takes place during a couple times during the year, where we have the consulates come to the Stanton Center to help with families trying to process paperwork, immigration issues, legal issues. And then also Ismenia, our Hispanic case manager, she and I work together for case management services. And, she does handle like a smaller caseload than myself, but, maybe 4 to 5 cases a week, some quick referrals, others may need much longer term care. And, you know, one of our challenges right now is working with our undocumented homeless population as well. So let me switch to the next slide, please. Alrighty, so one of our more popular programs is the rental assistance program. And I would say for the most part, we did serve many families, many seniors in the city to help to keep them in their homes. And these particular funds were pulled from occupancy taxes. And it seemed like as soon as we opened up our applications, we had to close them in October of 2023 because most of the funds were used. We do hope that those funds will be replenished in the next fiscal year. Most of the applicants, they requested between 1K to 6,000 in rental assistance funds. Next slide, please.
And before you move from that, when do you think the application will open for this coming fiscal year?
Oh, sure. So that's why I was like, I'll pour Aisha. She could definitely answer a little bit more on that too. But unfortunately, she's blanked out for the moment right now, just trying to get her video working. But I can't say for sure how soon the application will be open. But typically in the past, when we do have funds, usually it's within that month. Once the funds have been cleared, then we'll be able to start putting out the announcement and the applications. So usually within, say, a month or two.
So is that approximately August, mid-August? Like if the city budget starts July 1st, would that be August, September time zone to look for those application things?
Yes, I would say probably late August, early September. I would say definitely, I would hope before late August, but yes, I would think it would be around that time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And so these are just some very quick statistics about some of the families that we've been assisting, how many people we've been serving, as well as the amount of money and the areas that we've that have been like the top 3 that we've helped in 2023 and also in 2024 as well. So just a brief breakdown. Next slide, please. And as you see, like most of the households that we have assisted have been ones with families. So these are 3 people or more who needed the assistance. Many, I would say, thanks to the PPWs that we've been working with, once they received information from our office about the help, they were able to provide and do referrals for their families that were in need. So definitely the biggest goal of our office has been keeping, our biggest accomplishment, I would say, has been helping to keep Annapolitans in their homes.
So are those the PPW's pupil personnel workers from the school system?
Yes, I would say, I don't know if Melinda Spence is on this particular call, but she's been a wonderful partner with our agency. We've been working with her for about a little over a year now.
Okay.
And, you know, many of our Annapolitans let us know that, you know, they just needed catch-up help, and which a lot of families also reported as well. They may have lost their job, lost hours, many different events happened in order for them to need that rental assistance help. Right now, even though we are currently out of funds, I still encourage folks to call our office, because we do offer referrals to other agencies as well as nonprofits that are also assisting with rental assistance as well. So we may not be, excuse me, I apologize. We may not be able to help directly, but we can definitely refer to places that can help.
Okay.
Karen, would you be able to go back? I wasn't able to finish the chart that you had before this. Could we glance at that just a minute, please?
Oh, sure. Madeline, thank you, Madeline.
And I'll send this presentation around to everybody, Enid, so that you have this also. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And Jan, I apologize, but I just got word from let's see here. I'm sorry, from Aisha. And unfortunately, she was having some trouble on her laptop, but she is in on her phone.
Okay.
So she just needs someone to let her in as a panelist on her phone.
Okay. Madeline, is that possible? Sorry to multitask you. While we're doing that, I have a question for you, Erin.
Sure.
if someone calls your office, can they be put on a distribution email list such that when the rental assistance applications come open, they would get a notification? Do you have any sort of compilation list of people who express interest throughout the year that could be notified?
Sure. So normally, if we do get a call from, say, a resident, I'll say that, for example, once we have funds replenished, what usually do take note of their name, email address, and number. And once the funds have been replenished, I usually will call to follow up. As far as, I would say, an email list, no, we do not have that right now. But I would normally, myself, Ismenia, would reach out to the resident who is in need, see if they're still in need,
Great.
and follow up with them that way.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, are we moving to the next page probably?
Yeah, I would say I was just wondering if everyone was able to get a good look at the stats list, but yes, definitely this is free to distribute to your members. If you'd like another copy, I'd be more than happy to share this as well. And just just a brief talk about our grant program. So we have about 3 grant programs that are under the Office of Community Services right now. We have our Adopt a Community grants, which Sheila Finlayson was a big sponsor behind that, getting that towards, and also getting the funding in order to help out building up our Annapolis communities. And this money was set aside for nonprofits who worked in particular with certain communities in Annapolis in order to help build them up. Things like after school programs, childcare, different job trainings, all were happening around the city. And as a part of that particular grant, we also had bi-monthly meetings with the grantees and did different types of trainings, whether it be social work trainings, if they were having issues within the neighborhood, maybe connecting with residents, we had trainings about that as well. And so these were just like ongoing educational sessions. We also have the Children and Family Success Grant, and these were one-time funds allocated to helping the youth of our city access enrichment and learning development programs. So these particular pot of money was given to youth education, training, also helping with with our parents as well in the area too, to help pay for programs that specialize in those particular youth guided and care programs. And that also had a training requirement as well. So next slide, please. Oh, I'm
Before
sorry.
you move from that, would those help pay for like a summer camp to stimulate reading or writing, or what kind of educational grants would that kind of specifically cover?
Sure. So I'll just use the Adopt a Community grant, for example. One of the agencies used those funds to help support their summer program. And it was a summer / after school program over in Annapolis Gardens. And what they used that money for was to help children go for a reduced price to their summer camp. And that provided, some place for the kids to go during the summer, as well as provided financial assistance for their trips that the kids took as well. And so, yes, usually the agencies would, in their application, they would list off what they would like to use the funds for. And what we're looking for are places, just as you described, that would help with education, resources, summer camps, things like that in the city.
Okay.
For city kids.
Was that the recent grant application round? Was there approximately like 400,000 or so for this year's grantees, or?
So actually, that's on the next slide.
Hey, sorry.
No, you're fine. So that is our 2025 Annapolis Community Grants. So this particular grant has been, and I apologize, I don't know when this particular grant started, but it's been around for quite some time here in the community. It was here before the Office of Community Services was started, and we were given, I would say, the chance to help with choosing grantees for this particular grant, but it is subject to the availability of funds, and this is something that the city will consider funding and operating grants for a nonprofit organization. And they would have to meet certain criteria and provide services that sustain and empower youth, families, individuals to move to an improved quality of life and self-sufficiency, provide programs that preserve and enhance a community's character, provide programs that contribute to a vibrant economy, or promote programs that are integral to a community revitalization, economic development, and environmental sustainability. So right now, this is the particular grant that we're working on right now with our applicants. They have been doing presentations to the City Council this week. They'll be picking up again, I believe, tomorrow, in order to show how their programs or what their grant proposals, how they would benefit the residents of Annapolis.
Great. I'm curious if any PTAs who are 501c3 nonprofits have applied for any of the city grants.
I might have to go back and check on this, but I believe the PTA with Eastport PTA has applied. I believe there is another, and I apologize, I do not remember off the top of my head. I think Aisha, if she's able to speak, maybe she might have that pulled up with her. But yes, PTAs do apply, and they have also received funds in the past.
Great, good to hear. Thank you.
All righty, next slide, please. And just here are a couple pictures from some of our events. These were some of our Hispanic advocacy as well as heritage events that happened, as well as some of our art events that happened in 2023. One of the visits with the El Salvador consulate that actually happened over at Pip Moyer. We have our Day of the Dead Festival. We are so excited for this year's Day of the Dead Festival, as well as our Taco Fest. Both last year had a wonderful turnout. The weather was perfect, and it was just a great time for the neighborhood to see its culture and see how many, it was an educational time. It was a great time for food. I'm a little biased because I love the food at both events. And it was just, I think, a great time had by all. Yes. And also with our youth poetry book contest, we are so proud of it. It's still continuing and still going. And this particular event happens to highlight poetry from the students of Annapolis. And they're also given a chance to then present their poems to the public. And in that, in the book that we also do create each year, it will have the poems in there. The book is free to students, and we also give copies out to schools as well. In particular, Annapolis High School, they've been such a wonderful partner in providing poems.
What grades are eligible for that contest?
Sure. So actually all ages are welcome, as far as, we would say from, I believe we do start at first grade. So first grade to 12.
Great.
Next slide, please. And this is just some more pictures of our resource events. We have some of our interns featured in some of these photos as well. And our mobile wellness van, which is actually a retired ambulance that was donated to us from the Eastport Volunteer Fire Company. And we do drive that out to our resource days or different events. And we also do receive requests to come out to different events. If they like the city representation, we're more than happy to be there for weekend events and just passing out resources, giveaways, any information, signups for our rental assistance program once that's back and going, city services. We also provide signups there as well. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just an example of our book Around Each Corner. That's the youth poetry contest book, where the people who participate, as well as the winners, will have their poems featured. And we partner with OLA, Annapolis Art and Public Places, Center of Health, as well as Annapolis High School. And we're so proud. This is our third year, and we are just so proud of the students, as well as the teachers and the school social workers who nominate them.
Great.
Next slide, please. And this is just briefly touching on some of our future goals that we'd like to have with the city of Annapolis. One of which is, I've just been so inspired by the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families with Anne Arundel County, that we would like to have something similar as a Cricket-style organization for Annapolis resources. Before I come into the city of Annapolis, I've had the pleasure of working with families through Cricket, through the partnership. I worked at the Annapolis Family Development, Department of Family Development, which is right next to the oh goodness, the building on 80 West Street, the social services building on 80 West Street. And so I've had a chance to refer families to their services as well as be a part of the Cricket meetings. It's been wonderful. And I would love for something like that here just to, and then also we want to assist with expanding the arts and community building programs through our youth poetry project, as well as expanding, having capacity building for local nonprofits. We happen to have 2 satellite offices. One is located in Robinwood, which is at 1453 Tyler Avenue. And we also do have another center that's located at the Stanton Center. And some of our plans do involve hosting local nonprofits at our centers. And that could be where folks may have an after-school program in Robinwood, for example, or say if a therapist would like to, say from one of the local therapy centers would like to engage with some families that happen to live in the Clay Street area or in Robinwood, we'd be more than happy to host their office at our particular community center. So those are just some things that we're working on in the future.
Terrific. Could you spell out what Cricket is an acronym for?
Oh, sure, of course. You know, I say, excuse my shorthand.
No worries.
Yes, so Cricket, there we go. And that's for the Community Resource Initiatives Care Team. And that's a particular resource team through the Anne Arundel County Anne Arundel County Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And it's a wonderful group. And I would say, probably, I would describe it as like a one-stop shop for assistance and help for families that are in need here in Anne Arundel County.
Great.
And next slide, please. And that would be the end of our presentation. So I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. We have Enid with her hand up, and it was a terrific overview of the many, many, many things you guys are doing that many of us didn't know about.
Thank you. And I apologize. I thought my microphone was on mute. My daughter came in. I apologize. But anyway, I'm excited as the Education and Community Vendor Chairperson for the Kunta Kinte Heritage Festival. Oops. I would love to have your mobile wellness van. Do you all go out to festivals? I mean, we have a whole children's section, and I would love to have that be a part of that festival. How would I be able to get in contact with you, or how do I get to ask for that mobile to be there?
Oh, sure. That is so exciting. Yes, definitely feel free to email Aisha Young. And let me get her email because I can put that in our chat, or I believe it's isyoung at annapolis.gov.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, there she is. Wonderful. And feel free to email her. I do know in order for us to have the van there for any activities, resource fairs, festivals, things like that, I would say if we at least get maybe like 2 to 3 week notice, I believe we'll be able to turn around and be there. But yes, that we would love to come out.
Thank you so much.
Enid, what's the date of the Kunta Kinte Festival this year?
Well, we're thinking the 3rd week in September, but we're moving it. So we're going to know that in the next week.
Okay. Okay. We will, when Enid lets us know, we will distribute that to the rest of our commissioners so that they know. Put it on their calendars. You're moving locations or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other questions from any of our commissioners? Okay. I have a question. So I love hearing about all these programs that I had no idea what were going on. Who would a family first call? Do they call the mayor's office phone number on the website to get in touch with you all, or how does someone what's the best way for people to reach you?
Sure. So one of I would say probably our best ways, if they do have online access, they're more than welcome to go to our website, which is annapolis.gov/OCS. and that has all of our contact information as well as my work cell phone. I would say families are more than welcome. They can call me directly at my number or email as well. They can also call the mayor's office. I'm sorry, the city hall number, and that can be transferred to us or to Aisha's office there as well. So I would say that information is all on our website. I can give you my work cell number if that's something that we can put
If you
out there.
could, if you could, that
Sure.
would be helpful. Thanks.
Yes. So referrals, it would be 410 562 0169. And they can also email me at M as in mom, LEE@annapolis.gov.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to look around. Does anyone else have their hand raised before I ask another question? Anybody else? Okay. Can you tell us to what degree you're obviously doing a lot with family support and housing and mental health and wellness. To what degree are you supporting students and kind of students who are in conflict with other peers? And do you have any programs for individual support of conflict resolution?
So at this time, no, we at OCS, we don't have a particular branded organization or plan, but we do referrals, and I've done a few referrals to the Anne Arundel County Conflict Resolution Center. They're a wonderful group. They do provide with information about mediation services. You can also go to their website or just call them directly for mediation services. They also have classes and training through their organization as well.
Okay, so I've heard of them referenced a number of times. Are they located up at the community college, and would someone have to travel up to the community college to use their services, or what do you know about how someone gets their services?
Mm-hmm. So typically it is through their request. They happen to have a form online. You can also call them or email as well. And what I believe that someone from their agency would then get in touch as far as meeting up with them, whether it be in I would say in a neutral place, like the community college, but unfortunately, and also the Anne Arundel County Department of Health as well. That's another meeting place. But yes, I do know that they do try their best to get out there in the community to meet with people directly.
Okay, I'm just wondering if they come into Annapolis locations.
Oh, yes, they do cover the entire breadth of Anne Arundel County and also Annapolis too.
Okay, so they might meet with someone at a library or someplace that if you are an Annapolis family with limited or no transportation, you could be able to still meet up with them.
Yes, I do believe so. And that's something that I would definitely refer anyone who might have any extra questions about, meeting spots. Definitely feel free to get in contact. I do know that they do have, volunteers that are extremely flexible and do whatever they can to get out to the families to meet people where they are.
Okay, great. All right. Any other commissioner questions before I ask one more? Okay. So for Annapolis residents who are students grade K through 12, are you in touch with the AACPS social workers at the middle school or high school level? Do you pass on names, or do they pass on a name to you of someone in need of services, or how do we make sure those kids don't fall through the cracks of what we're needing to get to them?
Sure. So in the past with our previous community coordinator, So we would have a partnership there where we would speak to Annapolis City school social workers, the PPWs. We would also get referrals as well from them for after school needs. And that would be such as the rental assistance piece. I know for the PPW, when they would go on home visits for particular families in the areas that we cover, I would often go along with in order to, introduce myself, introduce the city services, as well as some of the case management services I provided. So it was definitely referrals coming from school social workers as well as PPWs to our office. And definitely now that we're about to hire a new community coordinator, that would also be a big part of their role, is going into the schools, introducing themselves, introducing the office, and also maintaining those connections we've already made.
Okay, great. Well, I hope we can get that position filled quickly, because it seems like such vital work you guys are doing. All right. Aisha, did you want to add anything to that great presentation?
No, Erin did a great job. And like she mentioned, I only been here about 2 or 3 months. So, she's kind of more knowledgeable than I am. So, but I will say, keep an eye out for the new community coordinator position. Once we post it, if you know anyone, especially if they're bilingual, we would love to, bring them on or give them an opportunity to interview first. So that's all I can add right now.
Okay. Where does that get posted? If there's any way that we can help distribute that information. A number of us help run the Annapolis High community Facebook page and the middle school Facebook pages and stuff. So where does that job listing come up?
I think it will be on the city website, and Erin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, under the employment section. And I'm not sure exactly where else we post it. I don't know if it goes on like Indeed or anything like that. I don't know, Erin, if you know if we use those.
I think it'll mostly be like on the city hiring website. And I know that when that is done, that's something that we could, spread the word about and get your assistance with that. But I'll be honest with you, we just need to check with HR about that first.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm hoping that they spread it within the community as well as bringing, good outside talent also. All right, great. Well, thank you very much for being here with us. And it's just great to put faces and names to services. And now you can kind of see the commissioners and the realms of things that we're into. And hopefully we can keep in touch and keep connecting and coordinating for things. Enid's going to have you signed up for every single event she's running.
No, I said we're excited for it too, because that's our big thing, is getting out there in the community, letting people know who we are and letting them know what services, just the abundance of services that are out there here in Annapolis, and supporting our families more than anything.
Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you.
Next on our agenda, we're going to have just some brief highlights from Mr. Will Rowell. And then after that, Dr. Joanna Tobin is going to join us a little bit later. So, Will, I'll turn it over for you. I don't know if you were at the tree planting ceremony today or if the mayor got to have all that fun by himself.
Yeah, he was there, and I think he did have all the fun by himself. I've been working on bike and micro mobility projects. So we have a World Bicycle Day, hopefully coming up in the pipe beginning of June. Wow. But I heard the weather was beautiful today.
Yes, and that was at Eastport Elementary, was it?
Yeah, yes. So it was some Arbor Day activities. I did want to also, on that same note, we had the electric vehicle
yes.
Day on West Street, which was pretty awesome. As well as beforehand, there was a panel on electric vehicles, an electrified brunch. And I moderated a panel who had, I think, pretty informative conversation and banter about where charging stations would be in the city, the future of electric vehicles in general, and in particular, Annapolis and the plans for Annapolis to really maximize the switch from fossil fueled vehicles and cars everywhere to, the hopes that one day we will have more electric vehicles, including trolleys, ferries, as well as obviously bicycles and shuttles in the city. So that was a pretty good conversation. We had BGE, Jackie Gould from our city manager's office. We also had a person from Annapolis Green, Tilly. I don't know if you all know Tilly. It was a pretty awesome event. So that's something to look out for, as well as conversations really about the future in the city of Annapolis, in terms of sustainability, climate resilience, and master plans, comp plans, all that stuff. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that I wasn't able to attend that last Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Was that videotaped for people to see?
Yes, I'm not sure if we didn't videotape it, meaning the city, but it was videotaped because I have a copy of it. I'm not sure if they've released it. It may be on Annapolis Green's web page, I believe. Because photos and some other things were sent to me. But it was really insightful conversation.
Okay.
The other thing is just recently, I'll run through a few updates. And again, if you want to reference any additional information about what's going on in the city and information that you believe is pertinent to where you are and some of your issues, I think the best stop is Annapolis.gov. But I'll run through a few things. One huge thing, and I also want to acknowledge our councilperson who's on the call as chair and who does work on all things finance and budget concerning the city. So I'll just give a few highlights. We did receive, meaning the city of Annapolis received more than $3 million in direct funding from Congress for the city dock and Gateway Park, which is pretty huge because we've, obviously it's an uphill battle to try to, hold back flooding water, as well as to revitalize and make the city dock area a lot more conducive to the gathering of Annapolitans as well as tourists, but to also reduce the carbon footprint and the number of vehicles that are parked downtown. So the funding includes over $1 million, close to 1.5, for Annapolis City Dock resilience, and that's for deployable barriers, to address the flooding directly. $850,000 for the revitalization of the waterfront park, and that's the part. If any of you all have seen any of the renderings, that's the park that that contains the grassy area, fountain, space for people to walk their dogs, walk around, do little family picnics or gatherings, things of that nature. So those funds will be used to construct that dynamic space that is a public space devoid of cars. And then another $850,000 for the Capital City Gateway Park. That's the working name. And it would fund the design and construction of that park. And also, as you come along Roe Boulevard, it's an underutilized area off to the left. If you're heading towards the state capitol, it was at one point a wooded area that housed those who were experiencing were experiencing a lack of a place to call home or unhoused. And the idea is for that park to be utilized as kind of a gateway coming into the city of Annapolis. So that's that update for that. That was done through Cardin, as well as Representative Sarbanes to secure that funding. So we're grateful for that. The other is every time around this year when the weather changes, I know a lot of our conversations are about how do we get people more connected and more involved in things. And so The first Sunday Arts Festival will kick off soon. May 5th, I think, is the opening date for that. But so keep an eye out for some of those acts that are going to be coming. We'll also pretty soon in the Arts District and with our Arts and Public Places Commission, every year, you know, there's a lineup of entertainment and of performances that are going to be at City Dock and other places around the city, and that should be coming soon. My guess is it won't be later than this week coming up. So keep an eye out for that also. And I mentioned that in this particular forum because I do think a lot of the conversation we've been having has been about how do we engage younger people. Because obviously when school starts letting out and the weather changes, we need to have spaces and opportunities for young people to engage outside of just sports or you know, recreational activities. But more, I hate to use this word, but I'll just use it in place of other words, but more cultural events, because culture is in everything. So I don't want to assume that one has to go somewhere else to get culture, but just as a placeholder, a word for that. So keep an eye out for that. The other is, you know, as you mentioned, tree planting and going out all over the city. There were events to start, you know, really doing community greenscape work. There were events in Bywater, Robinwood, you know, and other communities throughout the city. What's interesting is we're moving, time flies because it's already going to be May. I think we all forget that pretty soon May is going to be on us. And so we enter May Day and we enter all those events that, you know, we hold dear to us in this city, like the baskets that we put outside of doors and on stoops. So what we're trying to do this year also, along with what's always being done, we would like to encourage some schools to continue doing that, but also to kind of highlight what schools are doing in that area and students. I'm supposed to have a conversation tomorrow with someone about that at Annapolis Elementary, but it would be awesome if we could kind of do a little photo portfolio of young people in schools who create their own baskets and themes and of that nature. I'm not spearheading that, but hopefully tomorrow I'll get more information on it. And that's with Patty Norris. And Patty, I'm sure everyone, you know, on this particular call knows who Patty Norris is, but she works out of the Annapolis Police Department. And for years, she's been doing amazing work kind of under the radar. So she goes into schools and works with young people through the police department on all kinds of amazing, like she brings in speakers, guest speakers, but she also, you know, works with projects on them, has a really good relationship with a lot of elementary age students throughout the city in different schools. I usually go in a couple times a year and speak to some of her classes, and it's absolutely amazing. So I go during Black History Month, but I also go just whenever she calls me, like I'll read a book to them or something like that. So that's really fun. So I encourage all of you all, particularly because it's the Education Commission, to find out some of the other work that she's done. And again, her name is Patty Norris, Annapolis Police Department. I can forward some other information on to you all.
That'd be great if you could, and then I'll circulate it to the commission. But she sounds like a terrific person to get connected with. She
is. And then the most amazing and awesome thing that doesn't cause any traffic issues, and I mean, it's is the Spring Sailboat Show. And that's from April 26th to 28th. But it is a pretty exciting spectacle that happens every year. There are opportunities, of course, to go downtown and take a look at some of what's going on down there. But I bring this up again in this context because if there's any concerns with parking or getting through, I know everyone says that, and neither Aaron, Aisha, or myself are paid to promote this, but Annapolis.gov, will give you good information to to find out the latest on road closures or parking, which can continue to be an issue, but those in the city are, feverishly working to make sure that there's, a good place for people to park and not be ticketed or charged. So just keep an eye out for that. What I'll do now is I'll jump back to, a piece of work that's being done on micro mobility. And this somewhat dovetails, it's interconnected with a lot of our conversations about transportation that rears its ugly head in almost all of our meetings, right? Because it's extremely important. And it seems to be one of those obstacles that seems almost insurmountable, but just know that a lot of the conversations we're having on mobility, including the comprehensive plan, incorporate some of the future thinking about how students and young people are getting from point A to point B. I was on a call, and she told me she wouldn't be on this meeting with Jess the other morning because she let me know, which I knew already, but we dove a little bit deeper about the need for stopgap transportation, excuse me, for some students when they miss their bus. Mm-hmm. In particular, those that are going all the way to Annapolis High School. So I went back to the office and gathered some more information, checked on a little bit of the feasibility, because her idea was that we could have a set aside, not fleet, but a set aside 1 or 2 vehicles that could transport students to the school once they've been notified that they missed the bus. So it would be somewhat on call. The response I got, or the added information that I received back at City Hall, is that we do have lines that are transitioning to being on call anyway. And so there's an opportunity for that. The challenge that we do have in the city is that in terms of transportation and our transportation fleet, is that it doesn't deliver students with public transportation all the way to the high school. Mm-hmm. I think it stops, well, I know that it stops at Riva, where the shopping center is.
Giant Festival Shopping Center, which is still 7/10 of a mile, 8/10 of a mile from the.
Yeah, and is absolutely bonkers, like along that way. Like even when you're in a car, it's confusing to get through that one intersection. So these are conversations I plan on having a deeper conversation with our director of transportation department to kind of get more information. As we all know, because we all hear this all the time, but it's a fact that particularly when it deals with transportation and bus lines and bus routes, there's literally a cost and a dollar figure to each added amenity or added route or added things. So that's something we need to workshop. And it would be.
There's a cost and there's also opportunity.
Yes.
Workers and kids and parents not leaving their jobs to move kids around the city. So there are both. They're getting kids to jobs they might have after school and things like that.
Absolutely. And we had talked some time ago about at some point convening a wider conversation about transportation and both schools as well as transportation in terms of activities and extracurricular activities with young people. And so we should keep that definitely, maybe not on the back burner, maybe we should move it up the middle. Because as the school year is ending, of course, those problems don't necessarily end, because we have summer school for a lot of students and other activities for students. So it's something to think about. And on that same note, I've received several inquiries about our summer internship program. And I would say that if anyone has inquiries, they should refer them to Kate Pettit in the mayor's office, the chief of staff. And, of course, people can still, and I'm sure they will still send emails to my email address, but they are being handled through HR and Kate Pettit until further notice. So that's a little bit of those are my updates.
Terrific. Do you know when the intern program applications will open, or do people just send a letter and paragraph of interest?
There, in the past, that's a really good question. In the past, the years that I've done it, I designed with you. So the lens that I always used was both a race equity lens as well as a just socioeconomic. I tried to consider all of the ways in which we have barriers for people, for young people or people to apply to things and be a part of things. So what I did was I always created a online portal that it was really, really easy. They could do it even on their phone, where they could just give a name. And then what I would do and have, directly connect to them, because, not to belabor this, but because, and I think all of us in this particular forum understand that it is, we as adults and those of us who are older have to do everything we can to create opportunities. It's not just the internship program. It's the process by which we get young people involved that either discourages them and sets up more barriers in their future and limits their belief in opportunity, or we meet them where they are, and we encourage them to learn more. And all of them who go through the program, some of them may start off not understanding how systems work, but that's the entire point. By the time they get through it, they have a lived experience of how some of these systems operate. And so I feel like I'm doing my whole speech on this, but it is, if we want to, I believe, in order to move the needle on some of the ways in which young people experience this city and experience all of these moving parts, is to start early, giving them a seat at the table to engage with this system more. So I encourage you all, to be advocates to provide these opportunities for young people. Yeah. And there are internship, like Anne Arundel County Workforce Development regularly gives interns to not only some of our departments in the city of Annapolis, but also to nonprofit organizations and other entities and agencies throughout the city and county. And so if you know of young people who are interested, and even if they aren't interested, I always say, because you never know, right? But I would definitely encourage looking at how we can get young people, and not just your children or children that but just spread the word so that we can get people involved in really meaningful, awesome things this summer. And hopefully they can make some money to offset the costs that their parents have to incur for everything.
Mm-hmm. And
so
if we can spread the democratization of information, not to just those in the know. And that's why I do love the Facebook groups that we have for the middle schools and the high school, that really is broadly distributed to a lot of parents and supportive adults.
Yeah, and on that same note, I just wanted to add this that I think is really powerful, just in my experience and what I have experienced myself, is the reason why being mindful of how you're creating opportunities for people, not just young people, but human beings, is because when you focus on that, you get a more diverse pool of people working together, much like the real world, right? And so what happens is, and I've experienced this, with our internship program, is if you target and say, I only want to get poor people of color, or I only want to get students who, are underachieving or not doing, or I only want to get super, like the top academic students, or I only want to get private school students, then what you get is you get this really, homogeneous group of people who may learn a little bit together. But when you mix people, when you seek those that go to key schools St. Mary's, and they're working with students from Annapolis High School. What you'll find is a lot of those barriers kind of dissolve because they're in spaces where they're working together and getting to know each other. And then in my experience, I see them hanging out outside of, and if we imagine that's what we want this city to look like, 10, 20 years from now, it starts with, with how we're integrating all of those different things mindfully and intentionally on the front end. So thank you.
Awesome. Many, many good topics covered, and thank you for all the activities the city is getting into. But so we'll just keep spreading the word. Anything you send to me, I will send out to our commissioners so they can tell their communities.
Yes. Oh, and I want to congratulate the Kunta Kinte Festival. There's a launch party that's happening April 30th. And I don't want to speak out of line, but it's an opportunity to to help fundraise and put more money towards doing this festival, because it's not only an incredible and important festival culturally and otherwise, but it also is an opportunity, again, to bring more people from all over to come together, around a very, positive and educational and informational.
And fun.
Yeah, so I would encourage everyone to kind of seek out ways in which, because, every little dollar helps, because all of these festivals and parades are really hard to get going because they receive minimal funding outside of the city and elsewhere. So
Thanks. I was going to announce that at the end, but thank you for bringing that up, Will. And Jen, I'm going to send you a flyer right after the meeting. If you could get it out, I appreciate it.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. Great. Does anyone have any more questions for Will before we move on? Okay, great. Well explained and well covered then. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna pop over to Dr. Joanna Tobin, our Board of Education representative for District 6. And she's been here, there, and everywhere across the country. So we'll just give it quickly to you, Dr. Tobin.
Okay, I'll be quick. So first of all, I was actually at, if Will is still on the call, I was at Eastport Elementary today for a tree planting in honor of Arbor Day. And the mayor was there, and it was very cute because as the children were filing in before he got, they said, the mayor's going to be here, right? And we were like, yeah. And then one of them's like, there he is. There's Gavin Buckley. It was a big deal. And so a beautiful little magnolia was planted, and the kids did some wonderful programming for us at the beginning. So thank you to the city. And I think last year was Mills Parole, where a tree was planted, and it's a wonderful, wonderful program. And it's the second graders did some of the actual help with the planting because it actually coincides with a lot of their environmental literacy stuff that they're learning at that point. So it's exciting to see them sort of explain to us, well, this is what has to happen. And the hole got dug a little later than the students thought should happen. They were very concerned because they kept saying, you can't plant a tree without a hole. So, but anyway, so, I was happy to listen in on additional transportation discussions because, as I think I've spoken to you before, had some long discussions with the head of the county's transportation to try to see if we could extend the county bus route out to Annapolis High. It stops at the county offices there. And that turned out not to be feasible, having to do with turnaround spots and various other things. But the bottom line is, Annapolis High is where it is, and we're going to have to figure this out because especially as we move forward with more of the blueprint for Maryland's future implementation, which really intends to have students able to come and go during the school day, especially in the 10th and 11th grade years, 11th and 12th grade years, to internships and so on. Typical school transportation is not going to be able to accommodate that. So, these are things we're going to keep working on. And I know Will and the mayor's entire administration is very interested in this. And it's just something we're going to have to keep pressing on, because having decided to build a school where it was built, we now have to sort of deal with that. And the fact that, both the people who work there, the parents, and the students need access moving forward. So we're going to continue to have those conversations. Most immediately upcoming on May 1st, the county executive presents his budget to the county council at 11 a.m. And we will see how the budget we voted forward for the schools has fared in the county executive's determinations about the entire county budget. And then it will move into the hands of the county council. And as I sent to Janet, there are 2 county council budget hearings where people can offer testimony, which is the 15th and the 22nd of May, both Wednesdays at 7 p.m. I urge everyone who is interested in schools to testify on what it is they think is important in the budget, because the truth is that if the officials making these determinations, and they are hard decisions because there's never enough money to go everywhere, they need a sense that this matters to people. And so, obviously the Annapolis cluster has a certain set of concerns, many of which are mirrored in the rest of the county. But, whether it's the additional social worker at Annapolis High, or just positions in other places, or general funding for compensation, whatever it is, I would hope that if this is a matter of interest to you, and if you can't be there, you can always email your county council person, Lisa Rodvian.
And the whole council. It's not just.
And the whole council.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The whole council needs to hear.
The whole council needs to hear it, but our county councilwoman needs to know what her constituents are saying, not only what they want, but why. Because that is for all of us, whether it's those of us on the board or those of us in the county council, when you're making your arguments for what you want to see done, it helps to have, some good responses from your constituents. And it's a tough budget year. It just is. We've got a kind of perfect storm. We've got a new high school about to open. We have a new elementary school about to open. So those had to be staffed. We have various things to do with the blueprint that require some additional funding, over which we don't have a lot of control. I mean, those are requirements of the law. I happen to think they're good requirements, but they nonetheless narrow down the areas that we have additional say in. So those are things that, now the good news for the Annapolis cluster in particular is that with the implementation of the blueprint and the fact that the money follows the child, many of our schools, precisely because they have a lot of high needs students, will actually do fairly well when it comes to resources, because it's based on the student population. And so, that is one of the reasons I support Blueprint. But it does mean there's some adjustments going on right now that are rather different than what we've been used to in the past. The other thing I will say coming up is that Monday, May 13th, there will be a board workshop on the proposed strategic plan. There has been a community committee working on this plan for the last several months since December with a consultant. I've been the board member along with our student member, sort of representing the board on that committee. I think
Dr.
it's
Tobin,
been,
has there been members of the Annapolis cluster participating in that committee? I haven't heard anything that I know.
I'm blanking on all the people I see there every time, of course, right now. There was a whole process of application and so on that went on. So that occurred in collaboration between the staff and the consultant based on, how they do these things. So I know part of it was people applying to be on it. I don't know who applied. And as I said, I'm completely drawing a blank right now as I try to see faces around the room, but because it was a very big committee. But I think it was deemed to be, according to the standard practices of these things and all the different demographics and areas of the county that we represent, an equitable representation for every part of the county. So, but I think my perception of it was that people were generally pleased who participated in it. They felt, first of all, it was very different than anything this county has ever done before in developing a strategic plan. There never really has been, to my knowledge or anybody else's, a community-driven strategic plan in the past. And I think most of what came out of it is, generally going to be in line with my understanding of what most people have in mind as they sort of think of their priorities. That being said, we will have a board workshop on it that Monday night. Now, we never take testimony in workshops, but everybody can watch the workshop. It's an opportunity for board members to ask questions and get a sense of what's going on. And then we vote on it that following Wednesday, the 15th. So, because we don't get a strategic plan unless the board says, okay. So that's coming up. And so I would urge you to, if assuming it's approved, it would roll out July 1st. And Dr. Bedell has been very insistent since he came in that he feels this is one of the most critical aspects of really moving the whole district forward, because if you know what your plan is, you can do a much more strategic job of get going in the direction you want to go in, rather than just sort of responding to everything that comes up. Obviously, there are things you have to respond to, but this gives you the sort of structure of priorities of what you're trying to do, that allows you to make strategic decisions about what is what's going to get us the results that we all hope for. I will also say, I mentioned this to Janet in a conversation earlier. So one of the places I was wandering the country over the last couple of weeks was the National School Board Association, or the National Association of School Boards meeting in New Orleans, where Dr. Bedell and I gave a presentation on essentially taking on contentious issues in a very divided time, because essentially this board has taken on sort of hit every third rail that boards try not to hit over the last few years. And so we decided it would be a good opportunity to sort of, as a very large district by the standards of the vast majority of this country, and as a very diverse district in all sorts of ways, we thought it would be valuable to just sort of offer case studies of everything from hiring a new superintendent to changing school hours, to the transportation issues that we've dealt with, to contentious policies like the flag policy that we had last spring, and just sort of give case studies on how we did it. And it was very well received, and it was standing room only, and people came up to us all weekend and said, you know, this is one of the most practical things, valuable things in a practical sense I've ever attended. And the good news about that is, you know, people are really noticing our district, that we are doing some things that really aren't being done elsewhere. The bad news is there are people sniffing around for new superintendents, and I have to swat them away. But I think it was valuable for the people who heard it, but I found it very valuable to sort of go through all of those things again and think about kind of how we had moved through some of these things. So never, you know, a dull moment, and it's good to remember. And I think that's it. I mean, obviously graduations, then we will very quickly get into graduation season. And we will do our final vote, I think it's June 16th, on the budget. So we will have gotten the budget back, presumably from the county council by then. And so we will know where we're headed. And the last thing is, at the request of the, this has obviously been an issue for a long time, and I know that the commission was interested in this. So the policy committee is reviewing the eligible riders policy. We had an initial conversation in the first, it just so happens in April, we have 2 policy meetings just because of where it falls. It was like the 2nd of April, and then the next one is the 30th. So the first one in April, we took an initial look at the policy, but that we were not prepared to really take on a lot of questions. And as Janet has shared with you, the CAC had produced a report that we hadn't yet seen as policy committee members. So we decided to hold off until later in April to review it. I met with staff to talk about it. And the upshot is, my sense is I may offer a couple of small amendments to the policy, but the policy itself, there's not a whole lot, I think, that necessarily needs to be done, because by definition, the policy is a very simple and relatively broad policy, but we want to make sure it drives regulation, which is where the details are about how things are done, where appeals are. But in the conversation with the staff, I think a couple of very useful things came out. I think there's an agreement that it's really hard to get information as a parent about kind of, if I've got a question about my kids' particular bus stop, I'm worried it's not safe. Who do I talk to? Or, you know, how to get that kind of information. Now, I should say, and I think this is a good thing, we also happen to be in a moment where we're completely redoing our website. Yay.
Yay.
Long overdue. We knew we needed it. And so this is a good moment to sort of think about how to make sure that information is more accessible. And so there was some discussion with Dr. Heiser, who is our chief of operations now. Transportation reports to him, that, you know, we might do some FAQs. We might do, you know, there are a lot of things that should give a sort of more accessible transportation portal or page in the website that is a one-stop shop for parents looking for how to, everything from what bus is my kid going to have this year to, you know, how do I interact with the transportation department? It's also the case that just getting the information out. So as I was saying to Janet, there was concern about students on Clay Street walking to Annapolis Elementary, even though it's well within the radius. So a determination was made to grant a waiver there. And I think there are now 81 bus riders from there. So 2 buses that go there that are within the radius, but it was determined, you know, that in light of community concerns, we would do that. Again, I don't think the public really, I mean, obviously the bus riders who have it knew about it, but I don't think it was really information that a lot of other people had. So I am going to suggest to Dr. Bedell, and this is his call because he directs the staff, that maybe at some later date, there might be an opportunity for transportation or Dr. Heiser and some of his staff to do an update for the Annapolis Education on sort of where Education Commission on where we are with transportation in the city. Because we hear a lot of anecdotal stuff, and I think it's sometimes really important to get the data. Grace Wilson, our legislative specialist, is also pulling together some data. They're looking, for example, because I know a big concern around this is attendance. As they're initially pulling data together and specifically looking at Title I schools, they are not seeing a difference in attendance between bus riders and walkers, for example. So, you know, to see that data would be valuable. So I think there's going to continue to be a conversation here. As I said, I may propose a couple of small tweaks to the policy, but once it comes before the board, as policies do, everybody has a chance to weigh in, testify. I mean, as we know with policies, we have 3 readers. So there are plenty of opportunities for members of the public to look at any proposed changes, ask for other proposed changes, weigh in, and let us know if there are other things that you would like to see. So that's where we are with that. And I think that's about it for what's on the docket right now, but I'm happy to take additional questions.
Thank you for explaining the eligible riders process and stuff. I listened in to the policy committee, and it was interesting because the school system explained when we had asked for this eligible riders policy to be considered for Title I schools, you know, focusing on equity and accessibility and opportunity for our kids. They mentioned that the expansion of the community schools program was happening from X to 38 schools,
right,
and such, that there were concerns about the growth and the number of things this would apply to. But I'm happy to learn that changes can be made through regulation and through accessibility for parents to have routes looked at, and also that this is the data we need. We can't just say, well, you know, it's raining and we think kids are not going from what the teachers tell us. We would like them to look at, you know, inclement weather days and get the data for those days.
See what it looks, literally see what's happening.
Generalized over the year, but
and I will say, Mr. Roll brought it up in his context. We're always walking this tight line of, you know, what resources do we have what can we deploy? And data is exactly what you should be using to determine what's the most effective way to deploy it, right? We don't want to deploy it just on an intuitive idea. We want to deploy it on real, and if we see those discrepancies, right? So the Title I schools, when it's inclement day, rainy days and things go south, what's happening here? Or if we're seeing something else. And so I think that's going to be sort of the ongoing way that we look at this. I will say, as you look at the CAC report, and I think they did a good job, it's interesting because it is a reminder that we are very generous in our radius traditionally in this district compared to other districts. And so it's there's always a kind of relative structure here. And it's a decision on our part to use our resources more for transportation than others might. But I think it's warranted, quite frankly. But it's it's a tough thing. I mean, again, when I was in New Orleans, I had people coming up to us from all over the country. Really, really, they are struggling everywhere with transportation. It is transportation and mental health are the things you hear over and over and over again. And we've had other districts in the state, people coming up to us going, how did you do it? Like, how is it working in your district where we're really struggling? So, it's funny that it's a very relative thing when people outside look at it. But yeah, it's tough almost everywhere you look. So we will keep plugging away at this. But I do think actually getting the data now is one of the best things we can do to make some really targeted determinations. Because it's not, to be perfectly honest with you, it isn't just an issue in the Annapolis cluster. If you go up to the North County cluster, if you go up to Glen Burnie, you're seeing some very similar issues. And, there's a lot of discussion about what is and is not safe for children, where there are appropriate paths, where there are not. And it's an increasingly tough call in these times. So.
Well, I am appreciative of seeing that CAC report, which compared the radius and policy lengths of Howard County, Montgomery County, Prince George County, and a few others.
Baltimore, I think, yeah.
And just showing that many of them matched our radiuses and some were even further distances that children needed to be away from school before buses were provided.
Yeah.
And I am thankful that we have a transportation department that is just so much more responsive, so much more problem solving than we've had in the past. So we totally appreciate that. And we just want to keep getting it better and better and serving our students and our parents better.
I will say, and I think you all have seen this, but there'll be more as we do our end of year sort of data dives. The biggest change in attendance in a good way in the whole county has been the Annapolis cluster this past year. There has been just a very strong focus, and I have to give kudos to Jolyn Davis and working with the principals, literally walking the streets, going to homes where they're not getting, kids were not coming. And it's one of the reasons that Annapolis Elementary went from a 2-star school to a 4-star school in 1 year, was literally attendance. And no other school in the state made that kind of jump. And so the Annapolis cluster has done a very good job targeting, getting really granular and figuring out where people are who aren't able to come and how do we get them there and so on. It doesn't mean there's not still a whole lot of work to do, but I will say that they really jumped on it. And so we have seen significant change in the numbers from last year, which is all to the good. That being said, something else I heard at NSBA and at other conferences I've been to is there is this general issue in the country that school has become kind of optional for a lot of families. That, it's kind of like, yeah, it's just not a good day to go to school. And, I just think that's something we're going to have to keep sort of climbing out of, that is a result of what we went through in COVID. And it's not going to be an overnight process. I think this is a tough, kind of a cultural shift that we're going to have to work through. And again, it's valuable to go around the country and sort of hear what other people are that it's not just us that this is going on, but it's I think it's really, I find it very worrying. I think it's going to have a profound impact on students for us, in a certain sort of time frame. And because there's a lot that can be missed very quickly. And so.
Yes. I want to highlight tonight at this hour, Annapolis Middle School is having a parent involvement, math, reading, wellness event.
Yep.
Hello. And that's being run by our community social worker, Amy Beller. Like, just the power of engagement and keeping families connected, keeping them understanding what the student needs, what they might have missed when they were away, is really achieved through those amazing social workers that are keeping our schools healthy.
Well, and we're so fortunate to have someone with her background now moving over into the community school coordinator position, because she brings such a wealth of knowledge and background there. But yes, that is the kind of thing that we are focused on. And that reminds me, I don't know if anybody was able to listen in, but you can of course watch the recording. We had a workshop this month on the new reading curriculum. Now that's elementary, but it's the science of reading curriculum that's being put forward. And I think it's very encouraging. I mean, this is something I've felt very strongly about from when I first ran for the board, that we had to move towards the science of reading. But I think one of the pieces of it, just like the Reveal Math this past year, is family engagement in learning about the curriculum, understanding what resources are there, opening, how do families help support their students? What do families need to know about it, want to learn about it? And we've had actually pretty good response to families coming out to these events for the Reveal Math. And so hopefully we will have a similar response around the county. And so, I think those are really valuable things to show families what this is, how it works, what the materials are, and what's available for them at home if they want to support their students. So I think there are a lot of things moving in a good direction, but as I've said, this is a Titanic of a system, and you don't flip it on a dime. So
it's an aircraft carrier.
Yes.
An aircraft carrier. It's a large thrumming city that turns slowly, and a lot of moving pieces and parts.
But on a good note, on a very good note, I saw the Addams Family this weekend at Annapolis High, and that was phenomenal.
Those
Wow.
kids were so good. I mean, we
Oh
came home, my
my.
whole family loved it. It just was a wonderful show. They did such a great job.
It was spectacular, and the orchestra was
That's
incredible.
what I've always been so amazed that Annapolis has a live pit with their musical, because for a high school, that's asking a lot. I mean, and they do
Oh, yeah.
the coordination between the music department and the drama department for that is just so good. And every year, I mean, we've been going. I mean, the tickets are what, $10 a pop or something? I
Yeah.
mean, it's the best deal in town. We've been
Oh.
taking my kids since they were small, because when their babysitters were in it, we would
Yeah.
take them just to see them. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
now we go all the time. We never miss a show because
Oh.
they're so good.
It was spectacular. And I mean, I'm so grateful. I was worried I'd be out of town and not able to see it, but I was able to see it. And it truly was an incredible feat. There were only 2 non-students in that orchestra pit.
Yeah.
And that was a huge orchestra.
Yeah.
And the quality of the performances was just remarkable. And I also attended Monday night. There's an exhibition up in the media center at Annapolis High called I Am Me. And it's working with an outside group that's come in that does a lot of work with mental health, mental wellness, and art. And the students all through the school just did beautiful things. But I was also telling Janet, a board member from the Calvert County Board works with this group. And so he kind of spearheaded getting in touch with Annapolis High and coming up to Annapolis High. And so he spent a couple of days at Annapolis High while they were doing the last part of this, because it's been a second semester project, basically. And I'm sure Calvert County is a lovely county, but he said to me, wow. I have some ideas I'm taking back to Calvert County after 2 days in Annapolis High. So
Tell them to watch the Bates Story Project, because I feel the same way
Yes.
about that.
yes, I saw that as well. That's extraordinary. I mean, there's so many things.
really
And we struggle in a lot of areas, and there are a lot of students that we still need to ensure have access to what they need to have access. There's no question about that. But there are just incredible things going on in this district, and incredible students.
Incredible
And-
students, incredible teachers. The, people who haven't been in Annapolis High don't understand kind of the welcoming and just accepting culture. Like,
Yeah.
you are who you are, whatever, and you're going to find your little mess of people.
Yep.
And kids let each other be who they are.
Oh, yeah. No, it's incredible. Speaking of being who you are, Monday night at Glen Burnie High is I forget the official name of it. Salute Our Nation. I'll get this is where we give the Candace Antwine Award, which was established after we lost our late colleague on the board, Candace Antwine. And it is an award given annually to generally 3 students who are enlisting.
It's a scholarship money.
It's basically a scholarship, except it's not technically a scholarship. It really is to cover costs that are entailed when you enlist, and there are things you have to get and various other things, which can literally stand in the way of somebody enlisting. And people don't understand that only about 25% of the people who apply are able to enlist. I mean, it is more competitive than the vast majority of universities in this country. And it's an extraordinary event, because the giving of the Candace Antwine Award is one small part of it. But students from all the students who are enlisting from this county, and I think there's some from Howard as well, are invited. And they all take, and they're all the different units, you know, wherever they, whatever branch we had last year, several Space Force folks, and they take their oath, and it's very moving. And it starts at 6:30 at Glen Burnie High, Monday night, the 29th. And it's really extraordinary. And, you know, it is something that I feel we don't shine a light on enough.
I agree.
And it's an incredible path for students. It's a high bar. And, you know, we think of the JROTCs, which are fabulous, but this is a whole other dimension. And of course, the military, you know, being enlisted and being an officer are really two different jobs. Mm-hmm. We tend to think of it as a hierarchy, but trust me, I've been around colonels who won't make a move until their E8 tells them what is really going on. You know, the high level enlisteds. It's just a whole different world. And you know, a lot of the students who enlist, they're not interested in being an officer. They're interested in the execution, which is really what the enlisted work is about. And so I just want to give a shout out to that. And in future, you know, if you know young people who are interested in enlisting, they need to know about this award, because we try to give about $1,500, which will cover the estimates, or the costs are maybe $700 or $800, but it just gives a little cushion for as you go in, because you don't get paid a lot when you go into the military. So initially anyway, so
at the beginning. And thank you. That ties with our month of the military child and just military opportunities, as we keep talking about connecting our kids to their what's next after high school.
Right.
We really want to keep pushing different options for them for career. And that is one. Yes, very, very proud of our military serving personnel.
Oh, yes.
So then I think we've covered number 9 on the agenda, the eligible riders policy. We've covered the county budget dates. Joanna, you told us those dates. Are those both being held at the county council office, both of those?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, that's what they do.
I'm begging, I'm pleading. My kids are done and graduated, and I'm still going to the town hall meetings and stuff, and being like one of 3 people advocating for the school system. There's people advocating for increased fire and police and, you know, pickleball courts and parks and water access and everything else. But we really need people showing up saying we need this school budget, because they're going to respond to the loudest and most plethora of voices from elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Please do come. And it's 2 minutes of testimony. You can make something up, you can wing it, you can do whatever you want in 2 minutes to portray a convincing argument for please fund the school things that we need. And it makes a difference. Showing up makes a difference.
It makes a big difference. And again, we're in a moment where we've had a couple of good budget years the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. We're in a different spot right now. But those last 2 years can't make up for what was years of underfunding.
Yeah. Asking for the COLAs for our lowest paid employees and everything else is really important.
It's really, really, and again, I will just emphasize that for a cluster like ours, where there are a lot of students who have need, you know, the difference it makes when we don't have enough food service workers, when we don't have enough TAs and TSAs, when we don't have, I mean, it's not just the teachers, though teachers, of course, are critical, but all of these pieces have a disproportionate impact on students who really are, in many cases, the most vulnerable of our students. And so we just have to keep our eye on the ball there and make that case as best we can.
Yep, I totally agree. Okay, Odessa has her hand up. Odessa, what would you like to add?
Hi, Tobin. You just mentioned TSAs, and I know so many TSAs, and they're still complaining that they should be getting benefits and treated better as far as pay. What do you think about that?
Well, the TSAs are vital. I mean, they just are. And this has been an ongoing issue. Now, obviously, I can't get into, all the issues of negotiations and which bargaining unit people belong to. So my own view is, at the very least, they need to be paid more. Ideally, I think they absolutely should have benefits because, frankly, it's a healthier system. We know we have a teacher shortage, right? We want to bring people in and grow them. And, your TSAs and your TAs are a good place to grow people into the system, right? But you need people to be able to live on what they're making to stay. And so this is part of Ms. Ellis, the sort of bigger picture, which I've said many times to some of my colleagues on the board's annoyance on the dais, which is, education costs. And you can't pretend that you can do these things below what the real cost is. You can't. People have to be able to live on what they make in order to be able to provide the services that our system and our students desperately need. That's just a fact. And if, we currently are in this position where, TSAs literally take care of our most vulnerable students in many cases. And we're paying them so little. What does that say about our care for the students who really need the greatest amount of support? And so the endless fighting battles over budgets, at some point we have to get real about what things cost, especially in an area like this where it's very expensive to live. And so, that has been what I keep pounding home. I also keep pounding home, not because I pay taxes too, I don't want to have everybody's taxes explode, but we are not even at the tax cap that we have in this county. And this is where we make decisions about what kind of society we want. But again, to Janet's earlier point, Ms. Ellis, I would urge your friends to show up and testify at the county council. That's what's going to make a difference. Or at the very least, send an email to the county council. They need to be heard from.
Yeah. And seeing people's face and hearing their own testimony just really solidifies it so much more than an email can. So if they can make the May 15th and 22nd.
Yes. So Ms. Odessa, if you can encourage anybody who is concerned about this to come and testify, that is the best chance we have. I fought to get an amendment to our budget to up the COLA from what we were proposing, because a 3% COLA technically will kind of people, it won't keep up with what we did last year in terms of various other costs that have increased. So 4% mid-year would essentially land, for various reasons, land people at 5% at the end of the year. So they'd have a higher starting point for the next year's COLA. But unless people show up and ask for that, it's not going to happen. So, that's my biggest message. to
Okay, so
you.
when is the
It's
next
May
budget meeting?
15th and May 22nd, the public
Okay,
testimony for, and I'll send out a message, but write those down, May 15th and May 22nd in the county council chambers, on
7 p.m.
7 p.m. You only have to prepare 2 minutes of
Yep.
sweet and sassy testimony and show your face.
Yeah.
And it really does help.
Explain, all they have to do is
okay, thank you.
explain what they do and
All right.
what they need.
Why it's needed. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Thank you, Odessa.
All right, thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna,
you, Ms. Odessa.
in the unfinished business, I'm going to just mention a couple things that we brought up in prior meetings that our regional assistant superintendent, Ms. Davis, has clarified for us. We asked about the, and Laura, there's a thing on Chromebooks in the thing. So we asked about the possibility of loaner Chromebooks when everybody in the school system has to return their Chromebooks
Right.
for accountability and upgrades and everything like that this summer. There will be some loaner Chromebooks for our families that need them. Ms. Davis says she has reached out to Mr. Mike Borkowski, Chief
Borkowski,
Information Officer for AACPS. He has informed me that we will be providing information on the loaner process in mid-May.
Mhm.
As soon as we see that information, we'll try and make sure, if everybody on the commission could make sure it gets to the families in your sphere of influence, so that they know that if they need something, they can ask for it.
And if I can add, when we had the presentation that Mr. Borkowski made to the board about the Chromebook,
Mhm.
one of the things he said is we have responded to some things we've heard from the community, and loaners was one of them.
Oh, good.
So, when you
Gotta ask.
make your voices heard,
You gotta ask
there
people.
is, if possible, when we can respond, we do. So,
But just a reminder that no one cares about your issues like you care about them. And
Right.
if you sit there waiting for other people to deliver to you, you're going to wait a long time.
Yeah.
So we really got to advocate for ourselves and get community members to advocate for themselves.
Yep.
And the other news release from AACPS that I wanted to highlight was about the applications are opening on May 7th for pre-K programs for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And it is based on a number of criteria of family income and languages that might be spoken at the home. So let any folks and we'll make sure that the school system, that Ms. Lee and the city know about helping families get that application for the pre-K programs that are very effective. Also,
Yeah.
wanted to celebrate that Hillsmere Elementary got their recertification in the Green School program. I professionally worked with the organization that does green schools and did some model school things across the state when I was working as a federal wildlife biologist. And people don't realize that Maryland is one of the environmental literacy leaders across the country. And AACPS and Anne Arundel County are one of the top systems in Maryland doing this kind of work. So 43% of our schools have a green school certification, and we provide this enrichment and that so many other programs don't have. So we really want to applaud what AACPS is doing with our schools and environmental leadership.
And actually, Governor Moore, I think today, issued an executive order around environmental literacy, sort of shifting the priority and where this is housed. So yeah, it's
there was a whole Partnership for Children in Nature program run out of DNR. I was on that grouping of people. They really take it very seriously in Maryland, and we're very fortunate that it's part of our school system.
Yep.
I'm going to go to any new business that anyone wants to bring up. If you want something mentioned on next month's calendar, it is 8:09. I'm cognizant of your time. Thank you. If anybody has new business, throw up a hand. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about our, Enid, what would you like to mention?
Yes, I just wanted to know, one of the things you had asked about, officers, do we have people, running?
We do, the officer positions are open and we would love to have people nominate themselves and nominate someone else to take those. So if you want to send an email to Annapolis Education Commission at gmail.com for officer positions, that would be great. We're supposed to vote in May if we can get a quorum for that meeting.
But all of them are open, or nobody wants to stay in the same position, or what?
I haven't conferred. I'm very happy to step down as chair. I don't want to be taking that on again next year. Conferring with our other officers, whether or not they have the willingness and time to serve. But as of right now, I think nominations are open for all offices. So I think it's a good opportunity, fresh blood, new ideas. We will support you. We will help you transition. We really need, this is not, Janet's commission. This is not Laura's commission or Rachel's commission. It's got to be member driven, that everybody steps up and takes partnership and ownership of this, what we can each do for the commission and how to keep linking people and programs. So that's my 2 cents. We had polled members about the next May meeting. There's some difficulty in moving it. People can't attend also. I'm going to propose that we keep the original date of May 22nd by Zoom for our next meeting, 6 to 8 p.m. And hope to get a quorum of members able to attend that. When go ahead, Joanna.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I cannot attend that. I'm speaking at the Cat North graduation that night, so.
Great. Well, they will appreciate having you there. Hopefully that'll be a quick meeting because I want to get you back out into a lovely May evening. But we do need your participation at that May 2nd meeting. I would propose that we adjourn the meeting if I don't hear from any other notices or things that people would like to mention.
I make a motion that the meeting be closed.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Laura seconds. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for this very valuable discussion. We will follow up by email and circulate a number of materials that I'd really like you to spread among your community members.